All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. My call sign is Blitz, and today's video, we're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So let's get started with a simple question. In your journey of self-reliance, have you ever considered what comes after the gear and the guns? Let's say you got all that stuff squared away. Let's say you even go to the range. Let's say you come out of the woods and you do your thing out here. What comes after that? And my point is this. You can have the gear and the guns. You can have a little bit of training. But what good is any of that if you're out of shape physically? If your headspace is not right, if you're always angry and discontent, if you've never challenged yourself truly in your entire life, what good is all the gear and the guns that you expect to use in probably one of the most strenuous, demanding, and challenging times of your life, the scenarios you set up? What good is any of that if you're just like, if the rest of you is not in tune? So that's what we're going to talk about today, guys. I'm going to share some of my rituals, some of my practices, and overall, my 3 primary areas of focus for evolution as a survivalist in the year of our Lord, AD 2021. And to be quite honest with you guys, some of these practices I've been doing since I was a kid. Some of these things I just, picked up from others. Some of them I picked up as I searched for answers. But overall, these rituals, these practices help me evolve as a survivalist. Cool. But they also just kind of help me be a better person. And they just kind of enhance my life and make my overall life a lot better. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it, starting out with the first area of focus, and that is the mental, the spiritual, the mindset. Because let's face it, if your mind isn't right and you're all discontent and angry and frustrated and you can't even handle day-to-day normal life, how's that going to go in a survival situation? Before we get started, here's a little background information on me, which maybe will make what we're about to talk about more understandable, and you can understand why I'm suggesting some of the things that I'm suggesting, or I do the things that I do. So let's see, how do I sum this up? Background on Blitz. Very high level. I was homeschooled my entire life, raised in a Christian household. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled myself and my 2 sisters, and I was also a runner. So from an early age, running track, cross-country, long distance. And then, of course, vegan diet, vegetarian diet. So the fitness, the spiritual connection, the diet, those things that we're going to talk about were ingrained in me from an early age. Thank you very much, Mom and Dad. Other stuff, I learned from my peers, people I respect. And then other things, like I mentioned in the beginning, guys, I just found from, searching, dedicated searching, intentional searching for answers. So let's go ahead and get this fire started, and we'll then dig into the first area of focus, which is the mindset. The first area of focus is the mental and spiritual aspect of life. We all have a choice. We can go about life black-pilled and hopeless, or we can adopt a positive mindset and work to change and evolve those things within our control. Now, indeed, in the past, I have fallen victim to negative perspectives, all-or-nothing attitudes, and just a general kind of like, I guess, anger would be a good term for it, and discontent at the world around me. And I finally realized how bad this was a few years ago, and since then, I've been working consistently and intentionally to improve not only the mindset, but also the spiritual connection. And now, looking back, I smile when I realize how impacted and disturbed I was by the world that was outside of my control. So here's a few actions I take on a regular basis that have made a huge difference in my life, not only in evolving as a survivalist and a prepared individual, but just overall relationships, work, and pretty much everything. Now, be sure to leave a comment on how you strengthen and enhance your mental and spiritual foundation. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. First, unplug from the propaganda machine known as the mainstream news, and this goes for left and right-wing sources. Everything is biased and everyone has an agenda.
To our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous.
Now, of course, I'm not suggesting to bury your head in the sand, not pay attention to anything. Sure, you want to keep an eye on what's going on around you, but don't be impacted by situations and events outside the context of your control. Next up, read and journal. These are two things that I do on a regular basis that really make a big difference in my life. You know, for the reading side of it, I consume anything and everything I can get my hands on. And typically, I'll pick one up, read a few chapters, then grab another one. So usually, I'm reading about 2 books a month, right? I kind of jump back and forth. And really, overall, guys, there's really something relaxing about the intentional process of opening a book, turning the pages, and letting your mind build that visual representation of the context of the story versus having the entire experience spoon-fed to you by a screen, if that makes any sense, right? You come up with your own idea of what's going on. So there's that. Now, the journaling side of things, I've been doing this for a few years. You see that big stack of journals I got there. And then when I first started doing that, it had been so long since I had used a pen and actually did any sort of significant writing that I was getting cramps. Right now that's gone, and I actually have a callus on my index finger and forefinger from writing. But the journaling is a way to get my thoughts out of my head and intentionalize them onto paper. So once they come out of my brain and they get onto paper, then I have to take action on them. Then those things exist in real life and have power. But while they're locked inside my brain, they really don't have any power. They're just thoughts. Once they get on that paper, game over, different story. So I journal everything from just, my basic thoughts about life, from my weight loss journey to working out, to boxing, to, the death of my beloved golden retriever, to, issues with relationships and people and everything. My journal is all of those things in one. And I'll have a link down there in the pinned post for you guys to pick up a journal if you're interested. So there's that. The reading and the journaling, huge, huge factors in my life. Now, number 3, a huge factor and bigger than the first 2 is staying connected to a higher power. Now, this can be a higher power of your understanding. For me, being a Christian, my higher power is God. I start the day by reading from my favorite devotional and offering a prayer to Him for guidance, wisdom, and strength to follow His example, and an acknowledgement that I'm not in control, that He's in control of the big picture of the things that go on around me, and I can just kind of give that up to Him and focus on the little things that I need to do. Now, I find that acknowledging that there is a force at work in this universe greater than myself, and then looking to Him to guide my steps has always been the best way to live my life. Now, moving on to number 4, another big one here, guys. This is meditation. Now, of course, prayer is a form of meditation, but I also like to do guided meditations using a timer app, or it's called the Timer app. Kind of a weird name, but whatever the case is, it's a great meditation app. I'll have a link down there in the pinned post for you to download that and check it out. The meditations, what do I do? I mean, hell, it could be a quick 5 minutes just to relax and refocus, or like a bedtime meditation to get me to sleep. But either way, being able to connect to my body and its energy and clear my mind is a very freeing experience, and it's just one way that I like to reset or prepare mentally for challenges or situations that lay ahead. Number 5, challenging yourself. Nothing is more character building than putting yourself in a new and maybe even uncomfortable situation. For me, a while back, that was joining a local boxing gym. I was the only white boy in the entire gym, so I can assure you that I definitely got tested, but as it stands today, I've made great friends and I've learned so much from people I probably would not have run into throughout the course of my day-to-day life. And then beyond that, if we're talking about challenges here, I just volunteer for stuff. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes it works out for me. But, it might be taking a lead on a project at work or, accepting my birthday present for jumping out of a plane. Thanks, babe. I appreciate that. That was a little scary challenge, but hey, I'm still here and I'm alive. Chute did open. So there's that. Challenging yourself, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, and then from that you grow, you mature, and the uncomfortable situation becomes comfortable. So that's really important, especially if you think about evolving as a survivalist. You are going to be in an uncomfortable situation, no matter what type of scenario you set up, whether it's, the end of the world, reptilian invasion, wilderness survival, all these uncomfortable situations. So as much as we can do now to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, the better off we're going to be. And then finally, number 6, identifying defects. Now, this is a lifelong process of simply being self-aware and open to change. Because, hey, listen, I like to think I'm perfect. I'm not. So the only thing we can do is strive for perfection simply by looking at our weaknesses and our defects, right? Maybe it's a passive-aggressive attitude. Maybe it's compulsive behavior, addiction, anger issues, and whatever. The idea here is to dig deep, understand those behaviors, and then work to correct them. And like I said, guys, this is evolution, lifelong process of just getting better and becoming a better human all around. Moving on to the physical component, lifting heavy stuff and putting it back down again. Now listen, I'm not gonna bore you guys with a million reasons why working out is good, but here's a few. You feel better physically, mentally, you look better, which also impacts that mindset. It builds habit and discipline and a routine that then impacts the rest of your life as you become disciplined and apply to one area. Then it's easier just to continue this practice in others. And then, of course, engaging in physical endeavors is a great way to challenge yourself by setting goals and then crushing those goals with unstoppable fire and determination, with a never quit, never give up mindset, a mindset that embraces pain because you know that the outcome from that self-inflicted pain is going to be gains, right? So pain equals gains. Don't forget it. Now, moving on. Yeah, cool. You can lift heavy stuff. Great. But how good is that if you gas out after 30 seconds in a fight for your life? So martial arts, a really big freaking deal. So instead of guessing if you can defend yourself or going with the tried and true, I don't need skills, I'll just shoot them mindset, one must take on a martial art. And really, guys, just pick one that you can train consistently and actually works in real life. I've gone down the MMA route and I've gone down the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu route, and neither one of those I could train consistently. So I chose boxing. That's something I can do literally anywhere. I'm waiting in line to grab some coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. I can be the guy shadow boxing in line, right? Would that be weird? Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes I catch myself unconsciously shadow boxing. Point is, guys, if you can pick one thing that you can train consistently and you can get better at, do that thing, right? And you might, have some trial and error like I did, trying out different things until you figure out what works. For me, it's boxing. For you, it might be Muay Thai or MMA or literally any other martial art aside from the power of the mind ninja guys who, like literally hold up their hand and people fall down when they do that. Like some sort of like ninja Benny Hinn trick or something, but pick something that makes sense to you, okay? Now the next one here, guys, is clean eating. This is obvious, but it's hard to put in practice in real life, and it's something I sometimes struggle with, but I work on daily, right? So, it can be as easy as just looking at the big picture and saying, look, I need to cut out fast food, junk food, and maybe anything that is ready to eat in 60 seconds or less is maybe not good to eat. So, you kind of look at it, don't get freaked out by there's so much information out there. Just make it simple, right? I am no expert on this topic. There'll be a whole bunch of links down there in the pinned post, maybe to get you guys started to some of my favorite workout and fitness and clean eating channels out there. Now, one thing to note, guys, let's say that there is no gym in your area. Your home is now your gym. It's YouTube workouts all day long, an unending stream of boxing, prison workouts, bodybuilder regimes, strength and conditioning, yoga, and yes, guys, even glute gains, because glutes matter. Okay, here's the big one. Building the network, building up your personal army, because you can be Rambo and do it alone. Probably not gonna work out for you. And even with a family in place, you still need a support system, just like a soldier going out into the field. You think he does that by himself? No, there's a massive support system behind those soldiers in order to support them to get that mission accomplished. So kind of think about yourself in that mindset. Building up that personal network, guys, is hard. There's no doubt about that. I have my whole crew back in Tennessee and Alabama, good people who have my back, and I have their back. But recently, a few years back, as some of you may know, I moved to Florida and I had to start building that personal network here. And let's face it, sometimes you make friends with people and those friendships weather the test of time and distance, and sometimes they just don't. Either way, I found in order to be successful, you have to be intentional in the process and consistent. And the good news here, guys, is if you're in the right headspace and you're challenging yourself, looking back at those two points of focus that we just talked about, you will invariably meet good people who are probably going to be on the same path as you are.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
So here's a few ways that I have met people in real life with no social media and no internet required. First one, and this is super easy. You just have to be aware of your environment, and that is striking up a conversation with somebody based on a visible political expression. Now that could be a flag, that could be a bumper sticker, that could be a t-shirt, whatever the case is. You know, let's say, for example, my neighbor has an American flag up that he's flying and a Gadsden flag. He's probably a friendly. Maybe the guy at the gym with the MAGA hat is also a friendly. Or maybe he's a total douchebag. Who knows? But I won't know unless I strike up a quick conversation to kind of feel the person out and see where they're coming from. Now, what other ways to do this? Well, more real life interactions. You can start taking survival classes, gunfighter classes, first aid courses. That context of training and course instruction is going to invariably bring you around people who are on the same path as you are. And then of course too, easy one, join the local range if you haven't done so already. If there's one available, odds are the person there putting rounds down range is probably gonna like guns. And if they like guns, they're probably in the self-reliance prepper mindset. Quick disclaimer, I'm not saying you can't meet people online on the interwebs and it work out fine. Maybe you find good people, fellow survivalists, preppers, or maybe your new friends start suggesting random acts of terror. Hey, so there you have it, guys. 3 areas of focus: mental, physical, and then building up that private army. And to be clear here, guys, I just didn't like pop out of my mama's womb with a barbell in one hand and a Bible in the other. No, this takes time, intention, focus, discipline, consistency, intensity, all those great words that make for really freaking awesome memes, but application in real life, different ballgame. And that's why most of the time people talk about it, but don't ever actually get it done. So with that being said, guys, any gear that you have seen in this video, like that sniper suit or that knife I'm using or whatever, is linked up down there in the pinned post. And also, very important, listen, the podcast that I absolutely love, actually the only podcast that I listen to, because most are long and rambling and annoying, is the Power Aesthetic podcast. It's by Paul Wagner, and it is down there in the pinned post, and I strongly suggest you guys check that out. His perspective on life and some of the things that I talked about is very unique and very motivating, and I get a lot out of listening to that podcast. So with that being said, guys, name of the game here is really just being open to change, and then knowing that the change does not happen overnight. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'm gonna get my coffee. It looks like, I think my water is about come to boil. So have a little bit of coffee, some chow, and yeah, kick back and enjoy the absolute and total silence. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate the support, and I will see you next time. And yes, oh my God, I almost forgot. Leave me a comment and tell me about any rituals or practices that keep you sane in this crazy world. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey, you still there? Cool. Then don't forget to check out our website located on the interwebs at thesurvivaloutpost.com. We are designed and optimized for hard use, for the self-reliant who talk less and hustle more. Thanks to our international connections, you get first access to unique and innovative products from around the world. This is the gear that will give you that edge you need in a survival situation, or if you're just trying to keep the lights on when the power goes out. Any content mentioned in this video is linked up down there in the pinned post, and be sure to watch the suggested videos for more real-world survival training and knowledge.